Well, should we get to this week's news? We got a lot of stuff to cover.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, we're going to be digging deep into the legislative everything going on there in just a little bit. But first, we got some news from across the state of Minnesota, not directly related to the legislature. So we're going to start with that because we've been talking a lot about the legislature. So yay, non-legislature news. Yay. So the first little piece of news is we've got another band here in Minnesota that's looking at entering the cannabis industry. Now, shout out to Matt DeLong at Star Tribune and Nuggets for catching this one because they've not actually put out any formal information about what their projects looks like. Instead, they received a grant from the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, or DEED, as I'm sure many people know them as, a partnership between the tribe and the community college and an organization called Fond du Lac Band Cannabis.
Okay.
Nice. Shout out to organizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've been awarded about $30,000 to help train their employees that are interested in entering the legal industry. So hopefully we see a pretty extensive cannabis program being put on and supported by D dollars through tribal colleges.
This is great news. I hope they get more money, and I hope they can grow and thrive.
Yeah, and I hope more people follow the example of like, hey, the state wants the industry, so use their money.
Yes, use their money.
This is a great investment.
It's cool to see this, too, because I was at the Hemp Expo in April, and that was something that OCM brought up, was they were actually asked directly. Charlene Briner, the director, was asked, is anyone going to be able to get deed money before licenses are out? And she said no. So this is really cool to see, actually. So I'm glad they got it moving.
Oh, yeah. Starting to see some of that money flowing into the industry to help. I mean, we've talked to so many people over the last couple of months, years, that are interested in getting into this industry. Hopefully there are going to be some routes opening for people that are interested in becoming some of the amazing employees that we need to help run our cannabis program.
Hell yeah.
So, I mean, more to come on this in the future. They actually reached out to the band, Matt DeLong did, and they acknowledged the existence of the project, but declined to answer any other questions. So that's really all that we know right now. More to come in the future.
Very smart move.
Very smart move.
Very smart
Way
move.
not to talk, way to be quiet while you can.
Timing is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's number 5 that we have entering the industry.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It's kind of crazy, yeah.
Even before licenses are rolling out to the general public, we're starting to see so many tribal governments looking at perhaps cannabis is for us.
Awesome.
How many total tribal governments are there within Minnesota?
11, I believe.
11.
So, yeah, right over 10.
Yeah.
I was in Red Lake recently.
So it's right around half.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go. I love that they're taking advantage of what the state gave them.
Speaking of which, thank you to our sponsor, Native Care.
Hey.
Yeah, Native Care.
The first.
Oh, yeah. The first,
like, nationally, I believe, this is the first company to sell cannabis on the very first day of legalization. I don't know if any other state had, like, a cannabis sale on that very first day other than Minnesota.
That's really interesting to think about. Yeah, because
I guess it's not, within their borders.
Yeah, I wonder
You're
if
talking about the effective date when the law becomes effective?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Shout out Native Care.
Shout out Native Care.
Great.
It's
Great
just
to
like
hold
a little tidbit.
Yeah, I like that.
Better than a Stanley.
A weed nugget.
I mean, is it true that, are the rumors true that they may be getting poised to produce some of the best cannabis flower in Minnesota?
I mean,
that's a rumor I'll believe.
Yeah. I'm optimistic, at least, to see.
It'll be exciting what happens when the dispensaries open next year. Like, which producers' products will become legendary.
I think we're going to have some fun competitions in the future. And if anyone wants to host those and needs a judge, give me a call.
I'm also available. I have experience now, Growers Cup.
Yeah.
Kidding.
I wanted to recognize the best craft cannabis in Minnesota when this becomes prevalent.
Yeah.
Get your stuff cured, people. Get out
go.
here.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, some other news. We had a really interesting lawsuit roll into Minnesota this week.
I saw this.
Excited to dig deep into this, especially having Kayla here. But with all of you guys here, excited to talk more about some of the future steps of what action around cannabis could look like, not at the legislative branch, but through the judicial branch. So there was a lawsuit filed by 4 residents here in Minnesota who all grow cannabis at home, saying that they should, under the Minnesota Constitution, be allowed to sell cannabis. Now, we've seen people say that this is their right in the past. Unfortunately, under current reading of Minnesota law, with the interpretation of the Minnesota Supreme Court as it is today, that's not true. But this lawsuit could potentially change that. It was filed on Tuesday, so last week as you're listening to this, really trying to argue that our Constitution, which says we don't need a license to peddle product, should apply to cannabis. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
This is the best way to actually get a definitive answer on the question. It's been, in the Minnesota weed zeitgeist forever that we have this provision in the Constitution. So it's like, yeah, let's just figure it out. Let's see what they say. And, the judges are not, I don't actually know. Are judges supposed to be thinking of like, damn, what is this going to do? Or are they just like, is this legal or not?
So in theory, there's supposed to be, balls and strikes is the phrase that they use. They're not supposed to be coming up with new laws, but saying under the interpretation of the laws as it is today, does this allow for this as a right in Minnesota? Previously, when cannabis was banned entirely from being sold, their general justification was, no, you can't sell this. It's a health and safety measure. So that constitutional provision doesn't count because you're not supposed to be able to grow it at all.
Exactly.
Now we can grow it. All of us can legally grow at home. Should we be allowed to peddle the stuff that we grow? Well, these four in the Supreme Court case say yes.
I mean, I think this case is they're not going to win. I mean, it's already been proven. It's not that I don't think that they should be able to sell it. I think people should be able to sell it, But this is an ingestible product that gets people high. It's not like tomatoes.
Oh, you've never had my tomatoes.
But I'm just saying, Chris Wright, who was one of the loudest proponents
Chris Wright.
of this, he took this to the Minnesota State Supreme Court years ago, and he lost. Article 7, Section 13. I mean, I think that should be the way it goes, but it's not going to be the way it goes.
They have a chance because we can homegrown now. It's like,
yeah, but they're going to argue, the system is going to say, well, if you want to grow to make money, get a license, do it commercially.
Well, so here is their argument that I actually think is sort of interesting. Their argument is, especially in this in-between time, there aren't rules that we can follow.
Correct.
There is no system for us to legally take our product and be able to sell it to others. So, yeah, we'll follow all the rules that the state eventually sets up. But for right now, the rules are sell to those over the age of 21, and you can never possess more than 2 ounces in public.
Yes.
And as long as you're following those, under this argument of this filing,
and they're saying, like, I can't, like, take Tanner's home grow and go sell it.
No.
It has to be my home grow that I go sell.
Absolutely.
So it's a very limited in that way. And I think they got a shot.
Yeah.
This is kind of what stemmed my caregiver push with everything, because I was raised, again, like I kind of mentioned when Marcus was talking, Chris Wright is a family friend of ours in my family. So like I've been raised again on the importance of Article 13, Section 7, that you do not need a pedal to license in the state of Minnesota. However, once I got political this session and started trying to push HF 3766, the caregiver bill, this got brought up to me a lot by politicians on both sides of the aisle, where kind of like Marcus said, it's not tomatoes, it's a different product.
It's psychoactive.
It's psychoactive.
That's why we like it.
A big piece of it too was that a lot of people have overlooked with this. August 1st, we did not legalize the sale of cannabis at all. We just legalized possession, growing, and what's the third one? Possession, growing, and
use.
Thank you. God, the most important one. We still didn't legalize sales. So this kind of got thrown in my face a lot by politicians trying to push the caregiver program. Because I look at the caregiver program as being an umbrella to this. Because, again, if someone's growing for you, then you kind of know where it is, you should be able to get some incentive off that if they're providing a service to you. This is just a lot more clean cut, and I hope they win. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a medical girl. I don't have enough, I guess, experience in past cases to really put a full judgment on it. 3 of the 4 gentlemen I know personally listed on here, and like I kind of know their argument with it, so I'm really proud of them for pushing it too.
Yeah,
no, I respect it. Don't get me wrong. I respect it. I appreciate it. I hope they win. I just doubt they will.
Yeah, I think you're right on that, only because our politicians in Minnesota aren't fully behind it, and that's what's frustrating.
I'm excited for like the judges to just give like a real clear real clear guidance on this, because like, and I'm glad they're doing this again, like regardless of how it's decided, because like if we get we need to answer all these like gray area questions now before it's like, you know,
For sure.
there's an industry really up and going.
Yeah.
We have such a legacy market, though. Stuff like this, we gotta get those people protected, especially since we've legalized now. So,
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting lawsuit that really goes to look at like how is our industry set up, who is it set to benefit, what does decriminalization and legalization actually look like in Minnesota? Is it having farmers markets where as long as you're never growing more than 4 plants in flower, you're allowed to sell what you grow? Under this lawsuit, maybe. Under current rules today, unfortunately, no. It would be interesting to see what a state looks like where you can grow at home, and as long as you're not growing more than your allotted amount, what you do with it is sort of your own concern.
As long as you report it.
I mean, I would love to see farmers markets. I think that's a brilliant idea. I mean, some of us has talked about doing that or having that. So people should be. I mean, people are selling it anyway, right?
Yeah.
Where do you think people are getting their flower now before March 1st? From the legacy market.
the special flower spot, right? Like in the woods, we just pick it.
I mean, most people
I get my
who are
flower
doing
from
homegrown are
God.
not growing fire.
God gets me high.
This is God's cannabis.
Wait, the federal government doesn't send you guys joints in a metal tin anymore?
This isn't
Yeah,
Canada.
I get 8 joints a month.
Oh, darn.
Government cannabis, just like government cheese.
Oh. Imagine the terps. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, super
All right.
excited to watch this,
Mondays
so.
and Fridays.
Yeah. So definitely people should follow that. We'll put a link to the complaint itself in the show notes. So if you're interested in reading their full argument, definitely go through and check that out. It's really not super long. It's only, I think, like 12 pages long. Yeah. But definitely recommend that people check it out. It's pretty interesting to read through and say, hey, before, yeah, maybe these rules applied, but today, I don't know. We got
Can
to
I make
decide.
a guess what's going to happen?
Well,
I'm just,
sure,
I
yeah.
got to now that I said.
Got to.
Yeah.
The judges are going to be like, okay, you guys want to grow and you want to sell, right? By the time this goes through, they're just going to go get a micro license.
Unlimited micro licenses.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that was thrown my way a lot with the caregiver program too, was why do you need to grow for more than one patient? If you want to grow for 2 patients, get a micro license. I was like, but I don't want a micro license to grow for my elderly parents.
Yeah, I'm saying a lot of
So-
people may
Then
not
you
want
can
to
write
do
it
the
off
grower
with
business,
rescheduling, though. Why not? Why not want to?
I don't got time
Everything,
to throw into it.
everything you
Want
do
to
in
donate 10 grand?
cannabis soon will be.
I wish.
You will be able to write it off, guys. Look out for
That's
that.
true. 280.
We're gonna get rescheduled in October. I hope. Come on, Biden, do your thing. And
Come on, bad boy Biden, do your thing.
bad boy Biden.
Schedule 3, huh?
Yeah, I'm not the happiest about that myself, but
It should be
this is not my
descheduled.
podcast.
I mean, they don't even have alcohol or tobacco on the drug schedule at all. Like, that's hella suspect.
Super sus.
Well,
But,
that's what we
yeah.
were talking about on the podcast last week. We're like looking at the other drugs that are Schedule 3, like, all right, like full strength Tylenol. Is that like a good analogy to cannabis in our world today? No.
You could die from
Anabolic
too much of that, though.
steroids.
Yeah.
You can die
Absolutely
from
can.
too much cannabis.
Ketamine? But no.
To each their own with the ketamine argument. To each their own.
You can get that in the mail now.
To each their own
Yeah.
with the ketamine argument.
All right. Should we
Well, the
move on
mailman's
to our
been
next
acting
news story?
funny.
Yes.
Guys, so our
That
next
goes
news
on.
story
Check it
is like a total callback to some previous episodes. If people go back way to episode 6, we talked about when this arrest first happened, right around August 1st of last year. On episode 12, we talked about maybe the potential legal, we don't really know if an arrest and charge can happen.
Sticky wickets.
Yeah, and now here, episode 33, we're back talking about our friend Todd Thompson. So just as a quick review for people, Todd Thompson was selling cannabis out of his Asim tobacco and pipe shop on August 1st of last year on native land.
I guess not just Native Care.
No,
Native
not-
and Todd made sales.
Yeah, Todd.
was ready.
Todd
Todd
made,
his flowers, thank you.
he had a couple pounds.
Literally.
Yeah, Todd was the one giving the flower.
Yeah. So Todd had a couple.
He's in Article 13, Section 7.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Todd.
I'm sorry.
Todd. So Todd had a couple pounds of cannabis, about a pound of concentrate that he was openly selling to people. The police came in and seized it and said, "Hey, man, you can't do that. That's not actually allowed here in Minnesota." We talked about how, is this charge allowed in Minnesota under native relation laws?
Wait, if it's in
Question.
white earth, it's technically in another country.
And so that's what we're talking about here today. So now he has officially been charged with a felony charge. So maximum sentence of 5 years in prison or a $10,000 fine just for cannabis. Welcome to legalization, but it doesn't matter. Actually, it does really matter.
Yeah.
But in essence, what's going to happen here is they're going to have to determine whether this applies as a criminal case or a civil case. And I know most people are listening to that and saying, well, Tanner, he was just charged with a felony. That makes it a criminal case. But let's really sort of break this down because I think it's sort of interesting. So there was a Supreme Court case federally, not in Minnesota, back in 1987 that said if there was laws to prohibit an activity but not outright ban it, then it falls under regulation, which is a civil offense. Now, here in Minnesota, are there rules that allow for the sale of cannabis? Yeah, there are. So should this crime for illegally selling cannabis on native land...
Not yet. Not sales. Not sales. There are no rules around sales.
No
I
rules
mean,
around
prohibition
sales.
is the problem, not cannabis.
It's just
That's
The
what
rules
we
are
always
like,
legal.
saying.
I guess a licensed business is the only one who can sell.
Yeah, but so I guess is that provision of the House File 100 from last year in effect? Well, it's not been implemented, but is it statute in Minnesota?
Is it a big difference if it's because it's at a tobacco store? Does that make a big difference?
No, in essence, the difference is basically, so he was illegally selling cannabis. Is there ways to legally sell cannabis in Minnesota? Yeah, there are. Native Care was showing that day.
Yeah.
So should this apply as a criminal offense or should it apply as a civil offense, in which case Minnesota doesn't have jurisdiction? Well, almost certainly, this is also going to go to Supreme Court to decide because
Just how it's going to be.
just
Because if they charge it civilly, they just can't.
if it's
they're not
charged
doing
civilly, they
anything.
don't have
Yeah,
authority.
they just can't do anything.
Yeah.
So Jason Hastings, I think, needs to be named, is doing this so he can have jurisdiction and so he can, like,
So that's sort of what we're trying to
prosecute
figure out
cannabis?
here. In essence, the Menominee The Menominee interim county attorney says
interim.
we have jurisdiction here.
Interims.
You're trying to ruin a guy's life for a job you don't even have secured. I want you to know that. That is so annoying to me.
signaling.
That is so annoying to
Seems
me.
to be the theme.
Goodness
Interims.
sakes.
I was in Yellow
Free
Medicine
Todd,
County
bro.
the other
Like,
day.
this is annoying.
Todd.
Free Todd. Yeah, so I think we've talked about this
annoying.
on enough podcasts in the past that I think it's fair to say this probably, if it were to go to Supreme Court, would be said this is criminal. But I think at the end of the day, should we be putting someone in prison for 5 years and facing a $10,000 fine for selling cannabis out of their shop?
Hell no. I mean, did he? Maybe he thought he could legally do it.
He literally did. Like, he was on native land on the first day of legalization. And
jurisdiction.
he was
Exactly.
like,
It's
I
like
thought
being
I could do this. And it's just like charging him at all instead of being like, you can't do this. Like, Menominee County
Menominee.
is spending
Dude.
what is going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars
Oh, yeah.
to prosecute this man for something that is legal in the state. Like, if you live in this county, like, be for real. Call your county attorney, interim county attorney. It's not his job. And tell him to drop charges or
Well, someone's got to be
wrong.
made the
This is
example.
wrong, dude.
This is the.
I don't
This
believe
is
This
the.
is so bad.
These are the last grips of the drug warriors.
Yeah.
Correct.
And it goes to something I've said this whole time. It's like, it is individuals making these decisions. Like, this is not how the county feels. This is how Jason Hastings feels. And it's like, no one cares that this guy was selling weed. Like, no,
He didn't hurt anybody. He didn't assault
I
anyone.
promise you, the people who bought it knew exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And enjoyed themselves on August 1st
Yeah.
and probably had a great time.
Well, and let's be real. If every single person selling cannabis today was in prison for 5 years, we wouldn't have the prison infrastructure to support that. Like, we need to move past this mindset of, like, should we be incarcerating people for selling cannabis? No.
It's like, it's my
We
last
shouldn't be
chance.
incarcerating
Yeah.
people for most things that they're locked up for. I
That part.
mean, yeah. This is a system that
This
likes
is
to
crazy.
criminalize poverty and mental illness and drugs a lot. And that shit is not just most of the time.
Yeah. I think that's such a great point for us to go out on a short break. When we get back, we're going to be digging into some of the news here at the legislature. And guys, we're going to be doing a mock conference committee. Oh, yeah. So stick around. We'll be right back.
I'm going to be the prohibitionist.
And we're back. So we had a lot of news come out of the legislature this week that we're going to be digging deep into, and then a little bit later, our mock conference committee. But first, guys, I got a quick update on Senate File 4699, the health omnibus bill that we talked about now maybe 2 episodes ago, last episode ago. It's been that bill that's really sort of been hanging over as we've got the cannabis bill, and then we've got this other one.
It's lingering.
Yeah, and this other one had provisions in it, such as not allowing fonts any larger than 6 point for anything describing like a fruity or a food-themed flavor. Thankfully, the language has been updated. Yes. So, in essence, the language does not allow for any artificial or synthetic flavoring, not including naturally occurring terpenes.
Wonderful.
So, in essence, if terpenes come from a botanical or cannabis-derived source, then they can be added to this without having to worry about people saying, hey, you're adding things that make it taste like whatever. Yeah. This is how cannabis tastes. These are the terpenes that we're adding. Definitely, I think, sort of language that we're a lot more comfortable with here.
Yeah, this was the landmine.
Yeah, this is sneaky.
Hidden in this session, and I'm really glad the lawmakers figured it out, talked to whoever they had to talk to, and got to a place that everyone's comfortable with this language, because yeah, that would have been a very funny way to start our cannabis industry.
Yeah.
Very stupid.
Very
really
tiny
stupid.
blueberry kush across our packaging would be silly.
It was frustrating for the patients I work with because they were like, hold on, what about this? So like if I like super lemon haze, that works best for my issues. I'm not going to be able to get this. And I was just like, let me figure this out for you.
You just won't be sure.
Yeah, you won't be sure. It's going to be renamed. It's going to be called like Minnesota Lemon Nice or something like that.
And it's like,
long live the terps.
The naming, I think, talking to legislators and, well, because I outed myself, but letting them know that the names are part of like the
genetics,
like the actual, like it's the terminology is part of this thing's lineage and how it's like scientifically identified. It's not just because it sounds cool.
Yeah,
which it's both. It's always both. That's science. Like it has to sound cool, and then it needs to be practical.
Science is cool.
Yeah.
Terpenes are great.
Long live the terps.
Long live the terps.
Should have worn my Save the Terps.
I know.
A little bit of hat.
We'll just Photoshop it in on top.
No.
Perfect. Well, so let's talk about the other cannabis bill that really is, I think, the main one that we're going to be talking about today.
The big
4757.
4757.
Yeah. So passed the Senate, as you heard on our episode last week. In fact, we had some fun when we were recording last Friday. We went to go check on the break, and it's like, oh, the bill just passed. Like, we get to come in the studio and say, hey, we get to talk about this now, which never happens. It always happens like the next day. So glad we were able to talk about that. We've now got that conference committee appointed. So in the House, we've got Representative Stevenson, Hansen, Kozłowski, Fraser, and West.
Kozłowski.
Thank you. Oh, I always get the names wrong. John, do you want to do the names for the senators?
Senators, we got Port, France, Mayquaid,
thank
and
you.
last but not least, Zhang. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Zhang.
Oh, yeah. So really excited to have those people get together. I think, you can tell a lot about the direction of the bill based on who gets put on that committee. Oh, yeah. And we've got some people on the committee that I'm really excited to have them be part of those discussions, helping us to figure out what does this bill look like. Yeah. Shout out to the conference committee.
Yeah, really good group. I personally love this group.
Oh, yeah. And
I will second that.
I love
Huge
this
fan
group of
this conference.
You guys are the best.
Huge fan of this conference.
The best.
Oh, yeah.
They might be the 10 hardest workers.
I believe so at the end of the session.
Minnesota. Yeah, honestly, if they get this through with all the
changes
happening in the Senate.
Oh, yeah.
Give them a round of applause.
And their flowers.